Begin. It's 12:30. Yes, with the permission of Professor Pal and Professor Navani and others, shall I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Okay,
Also.
thank you. So, warm good afternoon to all of you, all the students and teachers of the Dr. D.Y. Patil Biotechnology and Bioinformatics Institute. So today we joined for the training session number 3 concerning scientific review writing, and the speaker today is Dr. Rajesh Gupta. He will be telling us about how to create a skeleton for writing scientific reviews, or that's one of the initial parts of writing a scientific review, and also how to go ahead and find what is missing in the literature, scientific literature. So hopefully it will be it's a talk which most students would like to hear at this time point, right? Because they've already initiated the work. So we also have with us on the panel Professor J.K. Pal, Professor Neelu Navani, Professor Nilesh Sharma, and the student coordinators Shrishti and Rituja. So I welcome the speaker, Dr. Gupta, and the panelists. The students can direct their questions to Shrishti and Rituja. I invite Dr. Rajesh Gupta to deliver his talk. Dr. Gupta, please.
Thank you, Dr. Satish. Start the talk. Before start, I just wanted to thanks Professor J.K. Pal, Professor Neelu Navani Madam, and for giving this opportunity to discuss about the today's talk, that is in continuation of previous talk which we are talking about on scientific review writing. Sir, I'm audible to everybody?
Yes,
yes.
So today's talk is actually, the topic of the talk is skeleton of proposed scientific review and finding out gaps in available literature. So here actually I would like to share some of the points as well as my experience writing 2 reviews that in the 2020. So with this, actually what is the main purpose of the review writing? And the most important and basic purpose of review writing is to generate a readable synthesis of the best resources available in the literature based on summary, classification, analysis, and comparison for an important research question or a current area of research. This should be written in your own words and style that attract substantial number of general readers as well as active researchers working in your area or in the topic of the interest. Normally, reviews written based on the previously available literature or data. New results or data generally not presented. However, some articles get some preliminary data or result at the end to create interest in the researchers to continue work in line of their results and their thought, basically. So we go for that. What are the important steps in the review writing? Number 1, to search and organize the literature available on the particular research question or research area, and to evaluate the organized literature and exclusion of the non-important papers here. So normally we should be actually highlighting, we should be taking review writing process, the current paper, and then we should be actually limiting ourselves within last 5 years papers so that we are up to date with the current new research what is going on. Of course, we have to take old papers also, those are important and they have substantial information in that. Number 3, to identify the progression, how this research in that particular field is going and what are the trends of research in that particular area. Any translational research should also be considered in steps of the review writing. Then we have to go for organizing the shorted literature in a systematic manner, designed skeleton with our discussion with our group advisor or group supervisor discussion, and to find out the gaps in the available knowledge and research area, and how to present, how to advance the field. We have to also mention that. And finally, we have to go for conclusion and future perspectives in our own view, and what is our idea and what is our suggestion to improve that particular topic at that particular research in that particular area, basically. Now, this, whenever we go for writing a review, we need to actually first secure the invitation for review writing. So normally 4 processes, actually 4 ways we get the review invitation. Number 1, most of the reviews in high impact factor journals are invited, and after receiving invitation, one can submit his or her paper. For example, Nature reviews, Trends, Current Opinion, Seminar Series journals, etc. These journals are high impact factor journal, and these journals basically require invitation. Some of the journals also encourage authors to contact associate review editors with their review proposal, and once it is approved, full manuscript can be submitted. For example, Glycobiology, Molecular Immunology, these journals are basically, you have to contact associate review editors, and once they like your old research, based on that, they actually allow you to actually write a particular topic in their journal. Various journals also consider direct submission of the review. You can always see the scope of the journal, and based on that particular scope, you can submit your own paper. Another actually very interesting is some of the journals, they also proposed thematic issues actually proposed by editors are also a good option for submission of review papers. And if you are interested submitting a paper, you have to email guest editors. Once guest editors likes your paper, likes your actually abstract of your proposed manuscript, he can also always allow you to submit your full manuscript for the further review process, basically. So based on that, what are the types of review, basically as mandate wise? Invited review, as I said, invited by mostly by experienced researchers. Then commissioned review from well-respected experts in that particular field, and it is also a way to increase the credibility of the journal and other authors to also submit those actually their reviews. Unsolicited submission, researchers are always free to develop an idea and submit to the journal editors. Now, once we go for that, because we have to go for wider audience for our review, so that we get more citations, more actually impact for our review. So normally, general audience, those who have larger scientific interest, this group include university and affiliated college professors who wish to read review papers to enhance their knowledge and prepare their notes and presentations. Therefore, some illustrations and table prepared in this review are also available and advised by their authors to use in the classroom teaching purposes. Second group is actually audience is student and new researchers. Third, largely experts working in the specific area related with the review. And fourth is basically policy maker on some of the topics, also considering citing particular review in the decision-making process normally. So for group 1 and 2, extended explanation of the subject or subject-specific language is necessary. Normally, it is generally explained in the information boxes and glossaries. Here, actually, some of the journals like Current Opinion Journal, they actually give their thought. They are taking the more recent last 2-3 years papers, and the most important research papers they are going to discuss in their reviews, that is actually marked with 1 star, 2 star, 3 stars. And the importance is like 3 star is more important for the current perspective or current research, 2 star is lesser, and 1 star is for basic purpose and all like that. So they mentioned that. They also give some actually definitions. They also give some actually important contribution and some perspective, what are the areas that is not covered. So they actually give in boxes and glossaries actually they provide in that particular their review. Now, coming to the types of review articles, it is already discussed by Professor Pal sir and Professor Navani madam. So normally there are actually systematic versus meta-analysis. So today's actually a review of, I'm actually mostly focusing on narrative reviews. So non-systematic reviews, they are also called as narrative reviews. Selected studies are compared and summarized based on author's experience, existing theories and models. Results are basically explained on qualitative level under this review. Systematic review, more comprehensive review, include rigorous search strategy, summarize all the relevant results, and even also include unpublished data. Also apply inclusion and exclusion criteria, evaluation of studies using predefined search criteria. Often it is quantitative. And third, in the a type of systematic review is also meta-analysis. That is one step further to also employ further statistical analysis of multiple studies, multiple scientific studies of addressing same question where some error possibilities are there from one study to another study. Like, for example, actually, if I see the mannose binding lectin. So normally mannose binding lectin is people wanted to use as a marker for to check the level during neonatal sepsis. So there are a lot of studies that is actually published, and some people they say this is the concentration. Some people they 200 microgram and microgram concentration per ml of the blood. So that studies are various, and I have gone through some of the papers, like they have used 10-20 papers from selected papers, and then they further analyze and they came up with that it is the actual concentration of the MBL during neonatal sepsis period versus normal babies, those are actually born in that. Now coming to the length of the review articles. So non-systematic reviews, that is called as narrative reviews, mostly 8,000 to 40,000 words, including references and all other informations. However, systematic review, including meta-analysis, mostly these reviews are shorter and less than 10,000 words. I'm sorry, it is 10 is more. Sorry for that mistake. Now, coming to skeleton of the proposed scientific review. So first basic things is there, and now we go for skeleton of the review. Now the title of the review. It is very important. It helps reader in deciding whether they should read the text or not. Also, it includes terms for indexing purposes, example in databases. Title should always be concise, that is short and informative. Titles are often used in information retrieval systems, so it should include important terms. Abbreviations and formulas should be avoided where possible. Longer titles can be added if a specification is required. Length of the title should be in between 8 to 12 words. So there should not be a longer actually title. It should be very concise, very short, and it should actually convey the masses of the the proposed scientific review article. Coming to second part, that is authors' names and affiliations. So it declares intellectual ownership of the work and provide contact information. Decision on author name, authorship criteria includes who contributed significantly to the literature serve, exploration, and or writing process. Order of authors. Generally, first author done most of the literature or research work and contributed maximum in the writing of the article, followed by the name of author based on their contribution. So first author is important, who takes mostly responsibility, and the contribution goes actually in decrease, the names in the paper goes in the decreasing order, in a sequence of decreasing involvement. In case of equal contribution, normally they may be ordered alphabetically or in a sequence of decreasing involvements. Last author usually coordinated all the review and owner of the idea, so he is definitely corresponding author of the paper. So it is very much important that we should always, when we start the scientific review or any paper writing, we should clear the authorship issues as soon as possible, and it should be clear as discussed, and it should be clear authorship actually orders, it should be discussed and clear as soon as possible. Now coming to author's name and affiliation, writing in the review manuscript. Basically, author's full name should be written very clearly without any ambiguity. If any confusion is there, it should be asked directly by the authors to write their exact name properly. Authors' affiliation addresses where the actual work was done should be presented below the names. All affiliations should be mentioned with a lowercase superscript letter immediately after the author's name and also in front of appropriate addresses. Full postal address of each affiliations, including the country name and official email addresses. Nowadays, actually, journals, they are asking for, earlier people used to give their personal email addresses also, but now official email address during the communication, during the correspondence of any manuscript is must need these days. So official email addresses of each author should be presented. In case of author has moved since the work described in the article was done or was visiting at the time, a present address may be indicated as a footnote to the author's name. The addresses at which the author actually did the work must be retained as the main affiliation address. Now coming to corresponding authors' names and affiliation. Corresponding author, this detail should be clearly indicated in the manuscript. Corresponding author will be responsible for handling correspondence at all stages of pre and post publication. It should be ensured that telephone and fax numbers with country code and area code are provided in addition to the email address and the complete postal address of the corresponding author. So in our case, basically in our student's case, your mentor will be the corresponding author of your review manuscript here, basically. Now, abstract. This is very much important, and we have to give a very concise and factual abstract should be written in for the manuscript. The abstract should tell us in brief about the main objectives and result of the review article. That is, in case of informative abstract, I'll indicate that structure of abstract written for narrative reviews. An abstract is often presented separate from the article, so it must be able to stand. For informative abstract, the abstract may be designed in objectives, material and methods, results, and conclusion. Objective should contain intention and context of the review. That should be in 1 or 2 lines. Material and methods, generally general picture of methodological approach that is applicable for meta-analysis and systematic reviews. Results, that is main outcomes, that is 1 to 2 lines. And conclusion, present the conclusion linked to the objectives, that is 1 to 2 lines. So the length of the, finally the length of the abstract, most of the journals they preferred between 200 to 250 words, that is preferred basically. So, and coming to keywords. Keywords are used for indexing purposes. Keywords should be chosen very carefully, and it should represent the content of your manuscript, and it should be specific to your field and subfield. Immediately after the abstract, normally a maximum of 5 keywords are provided, and only abbreviations formally that is established in the field are eligible as a keywords. General and plural tell and multiple concepts should be avoided. For example, and, of are avoided. So keywords is a tool which help indexers and search engines to find relevant papers. If database search engines can find your general manuscript, reader will also be able to find it too. This will increase the number of people reading your manuscript and eventually more citations for your papers basically. Now coming to one of our current papers basically, that it is still in press, that we have published in seminars in cancer biology. And so if you see the title of this paper, basically plant lectins and their uses in preparing targeted nano vaccine for cancer immunotherapy. So it is exactly in 12 words. And the author's name is basically Bhavika Gupta, Deji Sadaria, Vaishnavi. They are our students. So there is superscript basically their name, and their authors basically it is also it is Protein Biochemistry Research Laboratory, Dr. D.Y. Patil Vidyapeeth. This whole address is here. Then followed by Anuradha Kirtonia, and that she is from MIT Institute of Molecular Medicine, followed by Dr. Ravi Kant. He is a Department of Experimental Neuroimmunology. So he's marked with C. Then followed by Dr. Amit Avasthi, that is Immunobiology Laboratory, THSTI, and followed by Professor Palsar. So he's with us. Actually, he's Protein Biochemistry Laboratory. And then Dr. Izzy Yuba is actually Department of Applied Chemistry and from Osaka, Japan. And Dr. Manoj Garg from Amity again. And Dr. Gautam Sethi is final year as a Department of Pharmacology from NUS Singapore. So these authors are actually based on their contribution, they are actually put it in the series. And I myself, Rajesh Kumar Gupta, and there's 1 star because we both actually share this corresponding author. So 1 star is here for corresponding author, whereas 2 star is for co-corresponding author for Dr. Gautam Sethi. And if you see that keywords, so we selected for this paper keywords in the lectin, plant glycoprotein lectins, glycans, and then followed by DC sign. DC signs is a very well-established abbreviation. So we directly use this as a keywords. C-type lectin receptor, cross-presentation, and cancer immunotherapy. Here we have given 6 to 7, and we are allowed for that. So we have given 6 to 7 keywords. And this is our abstract that is approximately in 250 words. And we have designed in a very systematic manner what we wanted to present in this review article. So we have first started with that plant lectins, that is a very natural source of glycans. And this can be also used for targeting of C-type lectin receptors. We have described about C-type lectin receptor, their glycan specificity versus antibody specificity. What type of glycans that these plant glycoprotein lectin we can isolate, like we can always isolate homogeneous as well as heterogeneous glycans that can be targeting for C-type lectin receptors. And when this is actually, these glycans are complexed with, coated on the surface of nanoparticles, they can always helpful in actually antigen cross presentation and more cytotoxic T cell response. We have also actually created a library of glycans that was not yet presented basically in the literature. That was with the help of Glycan Builder software, we have created all the natural glycans that is present on the lectins. And then we finally discussed about multiple parameters like orientation of glycans, glycan density, simultaneous targeting of multiple CLRs for better vaccine, nano vaccine design. And this information finally actually discussed in terms of how we can go for next generation immunotherapeutic vaccines for cancer, and it can also be applicable for other diseases also basically. Now coming to table of contents. So table of contents, normally some of the journals they actually ask for, but some of the journals they don't, and mostly they are not. Some of the journals they don't ask basically. So it shows the readers the organization of the text and also help orientation amongst sections. Not all the review journals provide an outline or table of content at the start of the article. Only few journals provide this. Table of content are recommended for extensive narrative reviews only. So it is basically, I was reading a paper where actually plant lectins were used for targeting some of the HIVs, and because these are enveloped virus, so they have on their surface N-linked glycans. So that is N-linked glycans, that is oligomannose in nature. So they have used in that different type of plant lectin that can bind to mannose on mannose, that is oligomannose structure, and further whether these after binding of these lectins, they can actually clear or kill this HIV or not. So that was discussed. So it was basically introduction, a molecular mechanism of antiviral lectins, and then antiviral lectin described from prokaryotic organism, antiviral lectins from plants, and then further subsections are there. And then finally, if you see that concanaveline A and Haven-like lectins, antiviral lectin obtained from marine eukaryotic, and then consideration in the development of antiviral lectins and potential of further improvements, acknowledgement and references. So these actually table of contents, they are presented in that way. Now coming to that, abbreviations basically. So abbreviations that are not standard in the field are defined at their first occurrence in the article. It should be mentioned in the abstract also, and then in the main text. Consistency of abbreviations should be maintained throughout the review. You should not forget that at one place you have mentioned and another place you are writing full form. So, and normally at the end of the paper, in our bioscience report paper, we have actually given all the abbreviations, major abbreviations at the end. So first abbreviation and then full form is written in that. Now coming to structure of the review article. So how after this basic all these points, we have to present our structure of our review article. So basically we have to divide our article in defined section, and further these sections are divided into brief subsection with separate heading on its own line. Every section and subsection should be focused, and always information we can also opt for putting information in table and figures where is highly recommended, so that things can be better visualized by the readers. Now coming to the structure of the review article. So first we will go for introduction. This section provides information about the context, your motivation for the review, defines your aim and focus of the review, the research questions that you are going to discuss in this review, and its brief structure you have to give. You start from that and slowly you develop. And in my opinion, the review article should be like a story. And it should actually generate, when you start writing, you should get an interest that, okay, now it is going to story like, so I should read complete whole things. 3 important points that has to be discussed in the introduction, that is subject background. This is general topic discussion. Sometimes some people, they also take historical context development in this area. What is the actually problem? That's the second point. Current trends, what is new perspective, gaps, how this review knowledge stimulate interest in reader for the review topic. And then finally, motivation for writing this review. Author's justification for reviewing this topic, approaches to organize the text has to be described in that. Normally, the length of this section is 10 to 20% of the review. So finally, if we have to conclude, introduction have to be very narrow focused and explicit research question. These 2 points should be clearly indicated in the introduction. Clear justification should be presented for this review. Why we are very much interested, why we should present, why should we should go for this type of writing this review. You have to clearly say, and there is actually pressing needs for this type of review we have to write. And you have to write because editors sometimes they write, okay, there is no pressing need for this type of review, so we are not able to we are unable to consider this review. So the justification has to be very, very clear, and we have to say that, okay, now this is a current topic and this is a pressing need for this type of review. Now coming to body, that is material and method. This is mostly applies for meta-analysis and systematic reviews. Systematic reviews including meta-analysis have a method sections. This section enables researchers to repeat the review. However, narrative review do not have a method section, but these reviews include some information about applied method at the end of the introduction. The material and method section contain information about data sources, that is bibliographic databases, search terms and search strategies, selection criteria, inclusion or exclusion of studies, the number of studies screened and the number of studies included, statistical method applied for meta-analysis. The length should be 5% of the review. This 10-15 actually, I have seen some papers actually I was reading before the, so it is an average 5 to 10, 10 to 20, something like that. So we should be limit ourselves in that particular percentage. Statistical software and analysis should be added. Here, the data sources should be clearly defined and precision is mandatory in materials and method sections. Now coming to body, main part of the review. Structuring the topic. A clear structuring of the topic is necessary so that we can develop section and subsection structure. Subsection also indicate organization and contents. Criteria for organizing the topic are, that is, methodology used not to be included in narrative reviews, previously established concept versus new concept. So considering our the current paper, basically we have here actually what we were actually trying, that earlier this C-type lectin receptor that is present on antigen presenting cells, it was actually for targeted nano vaccine. They were used these C-type lectin receptors like DC sign, MR. So they were targeted with the different type of antibodies, anti-MR antibody like anti-DC sign antibodies. But later on in 2011-12, so what happens, there are some studies that is started coming that these lectins, because they are specifically lectins, so they can also bind to glycans. And if we go from homogeneous glycans to heterogeneous glycans, the binding is going to increase also. And there are so many papers came, and the new trend came in that why not to prepare a glycan coated nano vaccine. So glycans were started using in coating of the nanoparticle and further targeting of C-type lectin receptor on the surface of the antigen presentation and antigen presenting cells, and for further basically uptake, enhancement and cross presentation. So we have to see also that what are the studies in support of old concept versus new concept, how much this concept is successful, and we have to see also that what is the chronological order of the references. So we have to structure also further these all that. So normally when we start, we are going to only one, we are going to discuss only thing. We have to completely structure whole review articles so that we end up with proper future perspective and conclusion. So every time one idea we should not be discussed in one paragraph. Indeed, we should not go for one or two studies to be discussed in the paragraph. We should take several studies. We should read that. And once we should read, then we should actually refer in our paragraph. Writing, discussion or research findings should always be in line of stated research question in that introduction. We should not forget that what are the actually topics that we have mentioned in the last few lines, yeah, few 10-15 lines while actually concluding, while completing the introduction section. We have to develop our review in line of those stated research questions. So basically coherent connection and linking between one study to another to maintain the flow is must for our review article. Now coming to structure of the review article, the next point, main part of the review, that is we have to like citations. Nice. Nowadays actually different type of softwares are available like EndNote, Mendeley. Whenever you go for writing, you have to, you have a library of papers, you just take from, you select it and automatically references will come in that, and automatically at the end of references, your actually references also going to set the in the actually same way like that, first, second, third, like that. So citations are usually indirect, that is non-integral references. Author's names or a number referring to the references list should appear in the text, like one, yeah, something like Sharma et al, something like that. This is actually common practice, and most of the biology journals basically they do that. Citation is preferred. However, when we have to specifically focus, mention our specific contribution of any author, then we can also start directly with author's name, like some actually like Sharma, like Nilesh K. Sharma et al. Studied this, something like that. We can start also that. And further, this length of this whole body should be 70 to 90% of the core text, introduction, body and conclusion. So 70 to 90%, it should be the complete body of the review. Most importantly, a proper organization of all the information is important for the quality review. And the most importantly, another point, idea review should be rather than literature review. we have to see that what we wanted to tell, what is new in our review that attract more number of people in that. So we have to also discuss, we have to also introduce some new topics in our review so that most of the people, we should get more people will read that, more citation will come, and definitely we will get our citation impact index also increase in that way. Now again comes to this conclusion. So conclusion is the basically answer of the research questions set in the introduction. It also gives implication of finding, interpretation by authors, and some of the unresolved question. That length should be around 5%. Clear take-home message that integrate the point should be discussed in this part in the review that should be discussed in conclusion. In any way, it should not be a repetition of the abstract. Obviously, we have discussed some of the things in abstract, but we should be actually new, and we should be more open and more discussing in the conclusions. So a very straightforward conclusions. And finally, we go for acknowledgement. Acknowledgement in the section, we acknowledge the help of those persons who help in the registering and process. In other words, we can say the person's contribution is too less for the authorship. So definitely we will acknowledge those who have helped us, actually those who have helped in actually designing, in surveying, helping. A substantial help is there. So we have to actually acknowledge their help in our manuscript also. So there is actually paragraph for that. Earlier, the financial support were actually written in acknowledgement section, but nowadays a practice is that we should acknowledge separately the financial support from the different funding agencies like a department, like the Department of Science and Technology, Department of Technology, the Indian Council of Medical Research. So whenever they send a grant, they give actually grant number and year, all the information in that there. So we have to mention exact details of grant number, because once you actually write in your report, you have to mention your grant number with year exactly should be mentioned in your paper also. And the most important thing that sometimes some people have conflict of interest. Any potential conflict of interest should be declared. And if there is a form actually provided by the journals, and you have to actually declare what is the conflict of interest, and completely declaration should be there. And of course, if there is no conflict of interest, all authors should agree for that, and they should declare no conflict of interest. And if required, all authors have to sign the conflict of interest form, that there is no conflict of interest, and in front of their name they have to sign it. And then you at the time of submission of your manuscript, you have to attach conflict of interest form also. So the important point is that don't forget to acknowledge people for their help and support. Please check twice grant details and conflict of interest form whenever you submit. Otherwise, editor will always say that, okay, you have forgot to actually submit your conflict of interest form, so you need to actually submit. So again, the review process is going to 2 to 3 days left till you submit your actually conflict of interest form. Now references basically. So in the references given at the end to find out the work of others, to avoid plagiarisms and acknowledge the work of other scientists. So Dr. Sharma has actually discussed so much, so in very detail about the actually plagiarism. So we all knows about that. And so we should be referring from wherever we have taken the reference work, and we should be properly referring all the informations, author details. All the references should be cited in the text. Reference can be managed using software like EndNote and Mendeley. It is very helpful, and we can get some 1 month. If we go to EndNote site, we can get 1 month free actually after registration. After registering, we can get 1 month free trial for that, and we can in 1 month we can actually complete our work also. In narrative reviews, all the quality and relevant studies should be cited. Systematic reviews, including meta-analysis, have a strict inclusion and exclusion criteria. So we have to see what type of reviews, what type of actually papers we have to cite, what are the qualities papers, and what are the actually required. So we have to actually, in consultation of our supervisor, we have to also see that. Mostly 50 to 100 references are appropriate, but this number can go higher based on the review and the size of the review also. The number, if this review is around 40,000 words, then obviously we will go for 200, more than 200 reviews also. So now coming to the feature legends, tables, figures, etc. They should be presented on the separate page in this order at the end of the article. Feature legends should be written in a very systematic manner with all the minor details of that particular figure. So everybody can refer the legend and say that, okay, what is in there in that particular figure. Now, actually, last year I came to know about this BioRender software. So nowadays, actually, we see that very fancy, a very good type of figures that is coming in nature reviews like trends and all. So actually, professional software like BioRender, we have also actually started using this BioRender for the actually high quality diagram, and we can go for this BioRender using this site. And if you see that this BioRender has all, actually we can create all the professional science figure in minutes basically. Actually, one of our paper like seminar in cancer biology, we have used BioRender for preparing the figure, and it is so easy. And because once you register, you can prepare 5 figures only. And whenever you go for actually taking the PDF of that particular figure, you will get some actually BioRender marks. So you have to avoid that particular area. So at least 5 figures we can create. In future also, I would request Pal sir and Nawani madam also to actually we can get a professional version actually for using for this type of software. If actually we can get, we can ask for university for providing this type of software, which is really very easy, and we can create our picture very fast, and it is really helpful in that. Now, so taking example of one of our review article, that is basically that we have published, and we have created here seminar in cancer biology. This article is actually in press, and this article is the first author of and second author of this article is Miss Bhavika Gupta, she actually did her project work under my guidance, and Miss Daisy Sadaria, also MBT last year student, she did actually project work with under my guidance, and they have actually prepared all the actually glycan structure. They actually told that, okay, it was 2 readings, so sir, give something. But I told that you give me this figure, and now I have to write this paper. And they actually substantially they contributed in this paper. So we have organized this paper narrative review like title, abstract, introduction, C-type lectin receptor and their glycan specificity, modes of glycosylation in proteins and their role, plant glycoprotein lectin as a novel source of N and O glycans. And these N-linked glycans, if you go to market to purchase, that is 50 microgram, yeah, means 10 microgram is so costly, like 50-60,000 rupees. So we have developed a strategy to actually purify these glycans. N-linked plant glycoprotein lectins, O-linked plant glycoprotein lectins, TLR, toll-like receptors, their role in DC maturation, antigen uptake and presentation. And we have again given a subheadings like plant lectins as a potential agonist of TLRs. It is new concept that is coming. Multivalent presentation of glycans using carriers systems for targeting of C-type lectin receptor on antigen presenting cells. And then we comes to advancing anti-tumor vaccine development. And then finally we came to conclusion and future perspective. And here in this paper was around 20 printed pages. So approximately 223 citations, references are there in this scientific review. And I say that it took me around 40 or 45 days to continuously writing this review article. Now, some of the papers actually, they also ask graphical abstract. So graphical abstract is a single, concise, pictorial and visual summary of the main finding of the article. This is specially designed for the purpose of capturing all the contents of the article for reader at a single glance. The graphical abstract will be displayed in online search result online content list article, but will not appear in the PDF file of the article. So full text, full paper, it is not going to present it. The length of the graphical abstract, whenever you go for writing, it should be around approximately 30 words. I just tell this 30 words because one of the paper actually, I was just checking that one journal. So I found that 30 words you can write in that. So this is one graphical abstract we prepared for actually one of our review article, and it is still not published, but we have we wanted to say that cross presentation based glyco-nano vaccine for cancer. This is actually title. Like another title is immunotherapeutic strategy to enhance anti-tumor immunity. So all the content we have tried to actually summarize in only 6-7 words. So as much as concise you can actually say that. In this, we have prepared a nano vaccine, then antigen presenting cells, it is uptaken by this, and then some checkpoint inhibitors things are there, and it is going to anti-tumor response, and finally tumor lysis is there. That is what actually our concept is also that. And coming to this last point, actually second part of this, what is the gap in the scientific literature? Okay, so whenever you have to find out gaps in the scientific literature, that is considering a missing piece of some information in the area that is yet not fully explored or underexplored. It provides us an opportunity for further research work. Gaps could be anything like research method, new idea to be employed in research, other research points, etc. This should be presented on a separate pages in this order at the end of the article. And how do we go for identifying gaps in the scientific literature? That is, we have to definitely go for conducting an extensive literature review first. Then we have to extensively review read the paper, journal articles critically, and we have to find out identify the gaps in the knowledge. At this stage, your goal should be to find a space or opening for contributing new research, and simultaneously you can develop your own idea of actually further research in that particular area. And finding out gaps in the literature, you have to locate from where you can identify the research gap. So normally some people, they actually at the end of their review, they say that discussion part and future research sections, they also say that, and find some of the people they write like advancing sections and future perspective sections. So from that we can find out what is the actual gaps is there, what are the questions that is still unanswered, and that we can take and we can start actually working on developing our thoughts in that particular manner. So the most important actually thought from this is that the reading is must. So please develop habit to read new and exciting articles that actually stimulate the capacity, stimulate the power to read more and more. And more and more you read, more and more you will get more information, new information in your areas of research. So in the last, I would like to show some actually papers like that. So I would like to acknowledge for literature search, elsewhere else, author guidelines, Springer guidelines, and review writing guidelines from available on the University of Basel website, as well as some literature gaps that. And my special thanks to my doctoral and postdoctoral mentors, and they are really strict for me, and whatever learning is still going on with my current director, sir. He's also still actually mentoring me how to go for how to develop better in science. So I would like to thank Professor Krishnan Hajela. He's my PhD advisor. Dr. Nicole Maria Thilins, he is a director IARPAS, IBS Grenoble, France, for some serine protease studies. Professor A. Surolia is a big name in lectin biology at Molecular Biophysics Unit and Indian Social Sciences. Dr. Amulya K. Panda is a currently director at National Institute of Immunology. He's actually working in the different type of microparticle and nanoparticle vaccine delivery. Professor Helen Blanchard, Institute for Glycomics, Griffith University, Australia, for galactin and other works. And I would like to thanks to Professor J.K. Paul for guiding, and currently actually for his critical comments and suggestion and other help in during research work. And my special thanks to all my Professor J.K. Paul sir, Professor Navani madam, Professor Vani madam, Professor Nilesh Sharma, and all my faculty colleagues for their help and support. With this, I thank you for listening me. So at the last, actually, I would like to share 2 papers basically. So this is one paper. So this is a complete paper. So this I have already discussed. And then introduction, it's a big, and its corresponding author name is Dr. D.Y. Patil Biotechnology Institute. All the details are there. And then co-corresponding author, Dr. Gautam Sethi, and everybody's email addresses are there, and short form of the name is there. So this is complete a big introduction we have actually there. And here in the table form, we have what are the current biomarker that is used for cancer biomarker, glycoprotein and glycosylated mucins. And if we see that, what are the glycans like a T antigen, N glycan branching, MUC, ST, CLL transference, STN antigen, that has the potential to be recognized by lectins, because the lectins are carbohydrate binding proteins. And followed by, we went to further like C-type lectin receptor and their glycan specificity. This picture that is telling about glycan C-type lectin receptor structures, and also their carbohydrate specificity. We have prepared this picture with the help of BioRender. And further, this is another table that is overview of glycan specificity shown by C-type lectin receptor. That is different type of receptor synonyms and receptor expressed on different type antigen presenting cells, glycans, affinity we have mentioned here. And further, we have discussed about this C-type lectin receptor, another paper figure, that is C-type lectin receptor mediated signaling pathways. And here again, modes of glycosylation and proteins, their role, plant glycoprotein lectins as a novel source of O-glycan and O-glycans. Again, this picture that we have prepared, all the N-glycans, that is structure that is present on plant glycoprotein lectin using Glycan Builder 2 software that is freely available. And we have tried to create all the structure that is present on the plant lectins. It's a big, actually, it is new work. And followed by all actually N-link plant glycoprotein lectins, and followed by O-link and TLR and their maturation, uptake, study, and plant lectin as a potential targets of agonist of TLR, then multivalent balanced presentation of glycans using carrier systems. And then finally, this picture is there. This picture is basically this multivalent balanced glycan display to CLR. And finally, one more picture that is actually contributed by Professor Izzy Oba at Osaka Prefecture University. It is, his expertise in preparing pH-sensitive nanoliposome. And so we plan to basically go for glycan conjugation on this pH sensitive liposomes, and that we are going to plan in next years to this year and next year to complete this work also. And finally, advancing anti-tumor vaccines, we have given our views, conclusion and future perspectives. And finally, we have given declaration of competing interest, funding, and before that, and then acknowledgements, and all the file number of the manuscript project is mentioned, and then references are there. So references is organized by EndNote. So this actually, I would like to stop myself, and thank you for your patience in listening that.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. It was really elaborate and informative. So with you and other panelists, I would like to begin the question and answer session. So this question is for you. So some students want to know that, is there any such thing that narrative reviews are given more preference during publication? narrative reviews are preferred more than other forms of reviews during publication? That is the question.
Narrative reviews, basically, I have taken one example of narrative reviews, basically, because I have focused more on this here. But all the review papers, based on the context, they actually have equal weightage. And narrative review, where you are going to actually express and your views, as well as what are the current updates are there. So that is, you can freely write and taking as much as references, important references in that. So obviously all the reviews like narrative reviews, systematic reviews, meta-analysis, they have all equal weightage for that. But here I have given one example of narrative reviews. But it's still, actually, people actually, based on their interest, they go for meta-analysis, systematic review, as well as this narrative reviews. Some people like a neonat, somebody has to go for deciding what is the actual concentration of MBL in during neonatal sepsis. So definitely, though, they will go for meta-analysis, and there are good meta-analyses there. But some people, they wanted to go, what is the current updates, what is the current current best literature in actually neonatal sepsis. So definitely they go for systematic reviews. But if anybody wanted to go for complete what is started and what is the current status of that, so definitely they go for narrative reviews.
Thank you. Any of our panelists would like to add on that? Professor Pal, Professor Navani, Professor Sharma?
I think I would like to add something.
Yes.
First of all, I think Dr. Rajesh Gupta did a good job, a
Thank
good
you, sir.
presentation. And about this question that he was answering, I would say for the time being, or the beginners, like what is the present scenario for our students, you always think of the simple one, that is the narrative review. You do not think of the meta review or systematic review. Those are more time consuming and they're more elaborate. And you require to spend a lot of time in doing that. On the other hand, the first type is the ideal type of reviews that we are concerned at this point in time.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Professor Navani, would you like to add something to what?
I would first congratulate Dr. Gupta. It was a very nice talk.
Thank you,
And
madam.
you have really covered almost everything that was expected in the skeleton making. And it has come at the right time, because I think most of the students have already started gathering literature and extracting information. And this kind of orientation sessions would be very helpful for the students. And with regards to the question, I think Pal sir and Dr. Gupta both have already given an answer, and I don't think I have anything to add on. So maybe we can take the next question.
Okay, thank you. So, Dr. Gupta, this is one more for you. How can we assure that our review will be best cited?
What I feel about this question is that what new thing that you are going to present in your review. Like, if you have any idea, like when actually in 2011, when we were working on, Professor Surolia has given me a soybean agglutinin, and he told me that you go to Dr. Panda's lab and you start preparing actually microparticle for targeting purpose. And that time, he always insisted me that, Rajesh, you see this soybean agglutinin and start thinking of something. And I was not realizing that time that this soybean agglutinin has, I was knowing that, but I was not realizing that this MAN9, that is exactly, soybean agglutinin is one of the lectin that in the nature that has only oligomannose, no heterogeneity in the glycan structure. And that was a good thing that time. And I realized that this is something that can be used for future research. So all this whole thing that we developed, all these projects and all these, this was the only actually something that is given my teacher, my advisor to me, and still it is going on. And So this was the new concept, and then later I have gone through some more papers and I realized that these plant lectins are basically very good source of homogeneous and heterogeneous data. So then I have started actually purifying also that, and we got good success in that. And specifically in Seminar in Cancer Biology paper, we have put a new dimension that these plant lectins can also be used for targeting C-type lectin receptor as well as toll-like receptors. So because these are actually the lectin part can bind to glycan on TLR, and sugar part can bind to C-type lectin receptor. This is something new, and it is unique in the case of nano vaccine preparation. So something like that, I'm hoping that we will get some good citations also. So if this type of concept, these type of new things, if you present, more people will get attracted. So that is one thing. Like one of my paper, actually, one of my supervisor paper, Professor Hajela's paper, that came in immunobiology, only 2 impact factor. But if I see, it has more than, I think, more than 300 to 400 citations. But he has presented the things in so very properly, and at the end, he has given one actually figure and thrombin-like activity of MAS1. So if we are presenting something new in our papers, so we can get definitely good citation, more people will attract, and more new things we'll present, we will get more citation definitely.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. Professor Pal, Professor Navani, Professor Sharma, would you like to add something on to that, on that question? Anything else?
No.
Your views?
No, that's fine. I think we have been answering this almost in every seminar.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, I have the third question. This is for Professor Pal. What exactly is conflict of interest? So your audio.
That conflict of interest actually is, sometimes people write reviews, and that review is going to have some kind of benefit, personal benefit for that particular person. Like I have a company, for example, and then I'm writing a kind of topic of review which indirectly would benefit me in terms of financial issues or otherwise, and therefore there would be some kind of biasness involved. Even if I think that the literature says a particular point is not that strong, but if I want, I would put that in a very stronger way so that it benefits me. For example, I'm reviewing a kind of approach for vaccine technology. And then I have a company where I'm using this approach. And if I write a review on that and emphasize on that, that means I am trying to promote myself in terms of potential benefit. So therefore, there is a conflict in this case. My original thoughts and everything is being biased for my personal benefit. So that is one kind of conflict of interest. And in general, that is my interest is to project to the scientific community with a kind of literature review and new ideas, new thoughts coming from that analysis, only for the purpose of enhancing the knowledge or generating some research in order to have some application value, without any of my personal interest whatsoever, neither for my promotion nor for my financial benefit or supporting my company if I have, and so on, but only for the purpose of education and benefit of scientific community at large and the society. I have no conflict of interest. I have no interest whatsoever. So that is what in general is the conflict of interest.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we have, I think Professor Pal has summed it up all, so we don't need more views. Even then, I would like to ask if anybody wants to add something to that. Professor Sharma or Professor Navani or Dr. Gupta, anything else that I think sir has summed it up all.
Okay, I want to just add something here. Rather, it's a question to all the panelists. I think the students also need to be informed that what happens when there is some kind of a conflict within the team. So in that situation, what do we do? So can any panelist answer this?
If there is a conflict within the group
Yes,
who are part of the review.
Or maybe,
Yes.
sir, I'll elaborate it a little bit more. If we have conflicts between collaborators.
Yeah, between collaborators. So that is the very unfortunate situation. Rarely it happens. And that happens, as Dr. Gupta also said, in the beginning itself, you have the clarifications and transparency. Who are going to be the authors and in what sequence and of what importance. And if everybody agrees in the beginning, such kind of unfortunate situation never arises. So therefore, to be on the clear side, that should be one of the first kind of clarifications among everybody, among the authors, so it would not come ever. But if it comes, then it's better to resolve within authors themselves prior to communication, or if it even comes after communication, then it is better to withdraw the paper to avoid all kinds of problems and give it up.
Yes.
Yes.
That
Thank you,
generally
sir.
doesn't happen. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
And it's important for all the mentors to note this point, that we have to first itself tell the students what is the order of authors going to be, discuss amongst each other, and also get in order to follow the ethical practice, we have to all sign the agreement that there is no conflict of interest, and we all agree upon the order which is mentioned as below. So all the mentors, please note this point, and all the students, if the mentor forgets, please remind the mentors that this is what we have to do first before going ahead with communication. Thank you.
Okay. Professor Navani, I would like if you could make the point clear, like what do you it's preferred if you have so many authors, so many students. Do you think that we should be giving equal authorship to all the students, or do you
I
think
think
that
it
there should be
depends
some?
on the contribution of every student. See, every student may not be equally enthusiastic, because I have taken several meetings in my group. I realized that there are some students who are very prompt, very enthusiastic, they follow the guidelines. So obviously, if the contribution of the student is more, that student should get benefit. And those who are just, trying to learn something, even if they have learned something, if their contribution is a little lesser, they shouldn't have any problem, because then this activity is going to continue, and maybe they can be the next first authors in the next time. And if everybody has equally contributed, we can always make a note in the manuscript that all the authors have equally contributed to the paper or the review.
Thank you. So this question is again for you. How will we know that how accurate our review is, since the deadline is short? Hence, in such a short deadline, how to produce a review with high accuracy? How should we complete this?
That's a very challenging question, and a very answer also has to be equally challenging. The more effort you put, the better accuracy you will get. You have to read a lot. We have been telling this from day one when we started the training sessions, that once you have chosen review writing as an activity, you have to do it in a very dedicated manner. And it has to be very well organized. What happens is we generally get lost in the many papers which we download. Fortunately, a lot of articles are freely available. And what happens in the end is that we keep downloading the papers and accumulating them in some kind of a Dropbox or a Google Drive or on our computer folders, and we don't read them. So this shouldn't happen. You have to restrict your reading. You have to just omit the articles which are not very important for your writing. And for that purpose, first you have to identify what is the gap in the knowledge, which aspect of the gap you are planning to cover. Once you have these two questions answered, automatically you would know how to filter out the data. And then when you have filtered out the data, you will start gathering information about the question. So you have to frame the questions for your review, find answers for those questions, exclude all the irrelevant data, and then finally, writing a review is only going to take 25% of the time. 75% of the time is to do the background work. And that's how you can achieve more accuracy, I think.
Thank you, Professor Navani. Professor Pal, would you like to add?
Yeah, I think I'll add one particular concern, in this. See, this exercise that we have undertaken, these are training exercises. And the main purpose of these exercises is to train people with a particular objective. Now, it does not necessarily mean that we are expecting all groups who are writing reviews, they should come up with reviews that in 2 months or 1.5 months, and that is going to be straightway going to the manuscript stage or publication stage. It may not actually happen. It will require a lot of additional work by the supervisor or the mentor along with all participants, polish it, to iron it out, and it also would require a lot of time, and you may not expect to have some reviews accepted or published in 2 months' time. So that is not the purpose of this training program. The purpose is to train you to begin some kind of expertise that you would probably gain after a lot of practice and many years to come altogether. So don't expect that acceptable review instantly is going to be the result after these 1.5 or 2 months. You contributed to this, it will be still worked upon either by the mentor alone if it is close to publication, or along with you to polish it further. It might take longer, doesn't matter. If it is published even after 6 months, how does it matter? You still get the credit. Okay? So I don't think you need to concern about the publication at this point in time. Learn, participate in the whole exercise, learn and organize yourself and make yourself more knowledgeable how eventually you become a good review writer to begin with. Okay?
And you get the credit in both ways.
Yeah.
You also earn credits from the course, and once if you publish, you are automatically getting credit as an author.
Right.
So that is a double advantage.
Yeah, that's true. So, Professor Sharma, this is a question for you. Can the review title be in the form of a question? Your audio, please.
Yes, sorry. Yes, it's good question. 3 registration. We are discussing, like length of article or how long it should be. Yes, a review article, it is not referred as such review article, but yes, it can be put into the hypothesis, some research question or the ideas, and it can be, like even shorter. If you have any brilliant question that can raise a certain point with the existing, outstanding discovery, immunology or the cell biology topic, it does not matter. So if you have the courage to the existing idea, welcome. That is also one of the good way in writing 20 pages review. A student, they have bright idea, go to the literature and critical gaps and raise question that can be published and really appreciate. So that is a good option. Yes, that can be also published within 1 month or 1.5 months, because it's 100 or 200 references, citation, blah blah. Should think by a certain hypothesis or the question.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma.
Thank you.
Any other panelists who wish to lend their views? Can it be in the form of a question? Can the review title be in the form of a question?
Okay, I think I will add to it. Generally, that is very uncommon with a question mark. Generally, the title should be assertive and statement based, and very rarely you will see any title of a review is in the form of question mark, unless it is a very short review and you have a very specific question and you are reviewing what is required to answer that question or to justify that question. So very rarely it happens in a question mode, but otherwise it is an assertive mode, more or less, like a statement based. Okay.
Thank you, sir. So this question is open for all the panelists. As first year students, what kind of articles can we start reading?
Textbooks.
As first year students, yeah.
Textbooks.
Can we do simple?
Yes, because that's the first thing. You have to build up your foundation. If the foundation and the base is strong, if your concepts are clear, then only you will understand research.
Yes.
So any concept which you have not been exposed to earlier, I'm sure nowadays the science has come very well. I mean, we are having advanced science in schools and in 11th and 12th, but still, you know, we don't read it with that intent when we are in school, right? So that is where you should start. And because the time is short, as already Palsar has mentioned, the purpose of this whole exercise is to train you and also to see to it that, you know, you continue doing this in future. So let it take 6 months, doesn't matter. You know, you can make your concepts fine first.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Navani. Again, the question is open for everyone here in on the panel. What is DOI and E number? DOI, that is, I think, digital object identifier, and E number.
Nobody wants to answer. Maybe Professor Sharma can answer.
Professor Sharma, would you like to answer this question? E number?
He has to unmute.
Yeah. Professor Sharma, E number. So, like DOI would be a very unique identification which is given to a piece of literature. That's the purpose of giving having DOI. But what is E number? That's what a student has asked. DOI and E number. What is it?
Sorry, some network issue.
I think there is some network issue.
So,
yeah, Dr. Rajesh?
yes.
Yeah, no problem.
Were you able to hear the question, Dr. Rajesh? E number. E number. What is E number?
That is DOI and E numbers normally actually at the time of entry, when this your actually paper get accepted and when it has to get entry into PubMed, then these numbers are specific numbers that is given and based on that it can go to entered into the PubMed, and from that DOI number you can, if you wanted to actually take DOI number directly and put it in some you wanted to search, you can also retrieve the journal space, that manuscript basically. It is a basically unique number that is actually given by the journal once your manuscript is accepted, and before it comes to online, it is the way it gives you entry into the PubMed basically. So it is a unique number with that generated for every manuscript.
Thank you. Dr. Gupta, the question is again for you. If we go for reviews that are narrative, how to go about construction of the body of the piece of literature? Are you able to hear me?
No.
Okay.
Please.
If we go for reviews that are narrative, how to go about the body, construction of the body of that particular review? If you can elaborate on that. Were you able to hear me?
So whenever you go for actually, yes, please, yes. Whenever you go for narrative reviews, you actually, the concept is that what, as I said earlier, you have to go for idea driven, specific question based review that you wanted to actually that you wanted to highlight in your review. So whenever you go for any particular type of review article writing, rather than going for whenever your mind is make up for that particular review, you have to automatically get what I have to write, and you start preparing a section. Actually, you take up fixed points like introduction, body, and then acknowledgement, conclusion, acknowledgement, like that. And once the more important
think we've lost connection, I guess. Would sir like to add on that?
Yeah, I think I would like to add, since he's
main point.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's back.
not here.
Professor Dr. Gupta, you were we lost connection for a while from your end.
Sorry, thoda network problem.
Yeah, if you can explain a bit what you about a minute ago, what you were telling.
Actually,
wrong from the
whenever you plan for a review, like idea-driven review or topic-driven review, so what you have to do, you have to just actually formulate what are the points that we wanted to discuss in this review. So accordingly, you have a sketch like introduction. So you have to go for what point I am going to discuss in that. Then you have to go for actual body of the manuscript, yeah, review article. So these are the main points, and then you have to prepare a sub points of those. And then once all main points, sub points, subsections are prepared, and after that you go for what is actually new that you wanted to tell in that. And either you can explain these things by table or something like unique boxes, glossaries, help of that. So you should also do that. And where are you in this review? What is your concept what is your unique concept that you wanted to give in that particular for advancing this field? So you have to go for one line, yeah, one heading for advancement of the review article, yeah, something like that. And then what is the future perspective that you wanted to give, and then you wanted to go for conclusion. So first, what the point on which we wanted to write a review, you just thought whole process you have to develop, and then take a sheet or take all the points, you 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 18 point, 20 points you write, and then start preparing this with the discussion of your mentor or supervisor. You just subheadings you prepare, and then accordingly summarize your literature, and then you start writing. That would be a good way. Prepare that and then put your literature one by one in that, in a summary form, a paragraph form. That is what I think actually.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta. Professor Pal, yes, you were able to say something.
I think he has clarified all those. As Dr. Navani also said, first you have to know what you are going to, what is your subject going to be. You have to acquire the basic knowledge from the textbook. In the textbook also, there are some review articles which are referred at the end of the chapter. You can also consult those review articles to enhance your concept little more, and then think about it and you jot down, as Dr. Gupta said, jot down certain points on which you want to develop the review. Then as you read literature continuously, then these points are going to be automatically going to be revised by yourself. And then you develop a tentative structure or body of the review. Okay.
Thank you, sir. So, Professor Navani, this question is for us, both of us. When are the older webinars getting uploaded?
First week of August.
Okay, thank you.
It has to be after the sessions have completed. Otherwise, the session, people will just take the liberty to not attend the sessions live.
Okay, okay. So this again, the question is for all the panelists. Even after gathering literature, there is a fear of missing out on points. What should we do?
Dr. Satish, please.
Yeah, okay. I'll repeat the question once again, if in case you've not heard it. So even after gathering literature, there is a fear of missing out on points. What should we do? Any of the panelists can pick up this question.
Dr. Gupta.
Would you like to take up this question, Dr. Gupta?
Actually, if you go for like a particular point you have taken, And Dr. Sadiq, can you please, I am not able to
So,
hear.
okay, even after gathering literature, there is a fear of missing out on points. कोई point miss हो गया क्या? So, how do we, what should we do?
Okay, okay. So, whenever you actually write a particular review and you have taken, consider you have taken something about one point, like a multivalent presentation of glycans on the nanocarrier. So obviously people are preparing so many multivalent glycans coated nanoparticles, and definitely we would like to actually highlight everybody's contribution. And we have also actually downloaded maybe 50 papers, 100 papers of that. But we cannot go for all 100 papers. So it is always, and maybe we can miss some of the papers. The best is you write in your way first. And once it is going to with your supervisor or your mentor, he is much more actually experienced in your field. And what is complete thought of writing that part, he will definitely catch what is missing in that. That is one way. Or best is take what normally I advise students, that if you see some of the recent person who was writing some actually like, because this point is for a single point for our review, but if somebody has completely written something big on that, you can also take help from that. And the best is to go for current opinion in immunology papers. You will find so many peoples, they have written very specific reviews, and they have mentioned in last, this paper is 1 star, this second paper is 2 star, then 3 star. So all the important papers are there, so you can also refer in that. But with this way you can sort it out what is missing, and finally your mentor is there, he will help you in that.
I can add something here.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, Professor Navani.
So like Dr. Gupta mentioned, there are some other journals also, like Trends. It's a series in different subjects. Even those can be referred. And besides that, research is called research because you keep on searching again. So even I'm sure all of us would agree on this point, that if we go back in time and if we read our own papers or our own review articles, something is always missing. So, and there is always a scope for improvement. So if there is, the moment you realize there is a scope for improvement, you can again rework and you can come up with another review article.
Yeah. Yeah, that's nice. Thank you. I think Professor Pal can answer this question. This is because it's a repeat of what he has already advised in the training session number 1. How do we make use of MS Excel in making systematic reviews? How do we use MS Excel in making systematic reviews?
No, I have already shown that whenever you read articles, how to keep notes in an Excel format. And there are different headings on which you can jot down the notes, and as much information as you can in the beginning, that is ideal. And you can revisit those, the informations, and they would give you some ideas how to structure the review, where are the gaps that are available in most of the papers. And so therefore, to keep a record of your reading and the extract information that you get in the form of an Excel sheet. And that is going to be useful for reviewing all the time and then get going on the progress of writing the review.
Thank you, sir. So this is the last question I think we can take for this session. Can a review article be only based on a single research paper? Or rather any research paper? Can a review article be based on any research paper or maybe a single research paper?
It has to be on a question. It has to be on a problem. It has to be on a question. It has to be on a problem.
Yeah, okay. I think it can be topic centric.
Yes, and that in the topic you have to identify what is the problem that you want to focus, what is the question which you want to answer, or if you want to give some ideas. Sometimes review articles, people also give their own ideas. So, you know, those ideas are coming up as solutions to the existing problems. So I think like single research paper would not cover all that. You have to have a series of research papers and review articles which one has to refer. And that is why we are emphasizing on literature search and keywords so much.
Thank you, Professor Navani. So,
I think,
yeah, yes, sir.
I think I will add to that.
Yeah.
The very meaning of literature review clarifies that it cannot be based on a single paper. It's difficult. So, as Dr. Navani said, you have to have a specific question and then look around in the literature. What is the answer to that question, if at all, partial, or that raises further questions? That can only be done unless you read a large number of such literature, and then only you can review that. So, based on a single paper, it cannot be done.
See, there can be some very simple review articles, like one could just compare different, I think I have already given this example, but I keep on emphasizing on this example because I feel that students can relate to this example because they have done it in their labs some point of time. Suppose if you want to compare different methods for protein estimation. So if that is the question which you want to address in your review, what would you do? You would start looking for papers where the different protein methods have been, estimation methods have been mentioned. Not only mentioned, they have been used, they have been developed. So when you do this kind of an exercise, you have to come up with your own interpretation, because in this kind of a review, you are going to analyze the data also. You're going to look at the results. You're going to compare that, okay, this method has given better results. And then your own contribution would be, because you read so much, you understand the principle of every method, you would probably suggest that, okay, a combination of these two methods or a twist in this method would give us a better result. So that's how, as an author, you contribute. And this is, I think, a very simple thing to understand, I suppose. So that's it. Keeping this example in mind, just try to continue your literature review in a very nice way. And I'm sure it'll end up in a good article.
Thank you, Professor Navani. We have the message from Dr. Rajeshekharan, who writes that E number is electronic first publication and article number. That's what he says. It's electronic first publication and article number. That's E number. Thank you, Dr. Rajeshekharan, if you're listening to us. So I would end this question and answer session. It was really lively. I think a lot of information was shared. Thanks to all the panelists, and of course, big thanks to Dr. Rajesh for his presentation again. So I would like to sign off by thanking Professor Pal, Professor Neelu Navani, Professor Gupta, and our student coordinators Shrishti and Ritoja, and Ms. Isa and Krunal for their technical help. Thank you once again, and see you all for the training session number 4 next week.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dr. Satish, for coordinating everything. And also thanks to Dr. Pal for his presence in all the sessions. Thank you, Dr. Rajesh, for such a wonderful talk. Thanks to the student coordinators and Dr. Sharma and the IT team from our side.
Thank you. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.